Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Daily Gwei Refuel, where I recap the latest news in the Ethereum ecosystem. I'm your host, Anthony Sassano, and today's the 27th of June, 2022. Alright everyone, let's get into it. So I still may sound a little bit funny on today's video. I'm still sick, unfortunately. Don't have COVID. I've tested myself a bunch of times and just negative every time, but I seem to have a regular cold. So it's annoying because I can hear my voice is not great, and I keep kind of like having to clear my throat and stuff. But, you know, I guess it is winter down here in Melbourne, so it kind of makes sense there. But anyway, let's get through what we have to get through today. The first thing I wanted to start with was basically a tweet that I put out over the weekend, and that kind of shocked some people, I think. So I said, it's sad that I can't be critical of other ecosystems without people just calling me an ETH maxi or some other such nonsense. For what it's worth, ETH is less than 15% of my net worth, and I've never sold any ETH, so I don't just like Ethereum because of bags. Starting an Anon account is looking better every day, to be honest. And there's a couple other tweets that I'll kind of like I'll read out as well, where the second tweet was basically me saying, you know, that 15% number may shock some of you, but it's still a lot in dollars terms. The thing is that some of my other investments paid off a lot more than ETH during the bull, and I took profits on those around the top. I'm never selling my ETH, just throwing it all into staking as I stack it. And then the third one, I guess, like I'll go over once I finish going over the first two. So I want to explain to you guys what I kind of like meant by this tweet and what I was trying to do with this tweet. One, I was trying to, as I said, like tell people that, or try to signal to people that, like, I'm not just in Ethereum. I'm not just kind of like all in on Ethereum because my whole net worth is tied up in Ethereum. It has never all been tied up in Ethereum. I've never been like 100% ETH. I think the highest I've been is probably like 90% or something like that. And the thing is that I don't think that just because you've got like, I don't know, 15% of your net worth in ETH as opposed to like say 90% or 80% or 70%, I don't think there's any kind of like number on that actually like materially means anything if you're actually in it for the technology. Like for me, you guys know I'm in this for the tech, like first and foremost. Even when I kind of like, well, I didn't really have much money. I was still in it for the tech for the most part. Yes, okay, I was making investments. I was trying to make some money here, but the tech has always been what's fascinated me most, right? So there's that aspect to it, but there's also the aspect of people miss the fact that this 15%, I mean, that net worth number is inclusive of everything, not just my crypto holdings, right? It's inclusive of everything that I have, like that I own, every kind of like asset that I own in and outside of crypto. So in terms of like outside of crypto, it includes my house, my car, the other stuff that I have, right? Other things that I consider to be assets that if I wanted to, I would be able to resell them for, the same, more, or just a little bit less, right? I'm not talking about like other assets that I have, like, you know, electronics and things like that, which obviously rapidly lose their value. But yeah, I'm including like everything. Like I'm including my retirement account as well, which has like, I have a bunch of money in there from previous jobs that I've worked. The way it works in Australia is that your employer contributes to your kind of like retirement account, and I can't touch that until retirement age anyway, but I included that too, right? So that's inclusive of everything. And then in the third tweet that I put out, I kind of clarified this and I said, that's, you know, as I said, it's inclusive of everything. But if I just include, like, if I just kind of like talk about my liquid crypto holdings, it's about 70% right now, ETH. So it's still quite high, right? But let me give you kind of like a rundown of how 15%, it arrived at 15% here, how the kind of like number got this low, I guess, so to speak, as opposed to what some people thought it was. You guys know, as I've said, like when I read out these tweets, I'm never selling my ETH. So I've said before that I bought most of my ETH between $100 and $200. ETH is like $1,100 right now, $1,200 right now, guys. Like, if like my $100 buys are up, what, 11, 12x, right? My $200 buys are up half of that at this point. And if I've never sold my ETH, but I've sold other things and then put the money from those other things either into kind of like savings or into a house or into something else that doesn't lose, you know, a lot of its value, 80% of its value in like in less than a year, like what ETH has. Like ETH has lost 80% of its value in what, 8 months or something like that. Right. Of course, the way the kind of like portfolio is going to be constructed is that ETH is going to end up being a lot kind of like less of my portfolio simply because of the fact that I didn't sell any. I didn't cash any out. I didn't kind of like hold that value when it was much higher. Obviously, when it was at like almost 5K, I was up 50x on my $100 buys, right? But then once you do the math now, it's very, very different. And that's how it got to this 15% because I cashed out other things that I had made money on, put them into more kind of like stable assets, and then kind of like if you calculate that and put it all together, it gets to this number here. Now, on that topic, the reason why I cashed out things and I bought other things with it and kind of like have, I guess, like things that I own outside of crypto is because that's just good risk management. And I go on about risk management a lot on the Refuel, like a lot with you guys. You guys know I'm all about risk management. I'm not going to keep 100% of my net worth in ETH. Like, it's not a good risk management strategy. It's just silly, especially for me, who's been in this game for a while. It doesn't make sense for me to keep that in all my net worth in ETH, especially when ETH can still lose 80% of its value in like 7 months, right? As bullish as I am on ETH, I'm not bullish enough to kind of like sacrifice or take like these massive risks for my own personal well-being in order to kind of like, I don't know, get some outsized return later on or something like that. Like, I'm still buying ETH as much as I can, but I do it in as a kind of like a part of a balanced portfolio. And I never believed in like diversifying too much. I don't think kind of like you should be diversified across 100 different kind of like public investments and things like that. I do have a lot of private investments that I've done, but look, the amount of money I put into that is nothing compared to what I put into to kind of like ETH here. But you know, in terms of just constructing a portfolio, it shouldn't just be one asset class either, right? Like, as I said, I have like my retirement account, which is basically all stocks. I don't touch that. That just sits there. And I don't even put my own money into that. That's just there from old jobs that I had, but that's there. I have my house, I have my car, I have a bunch of other possessions and things like that I consider to be valuable and investment grade possessions, and that's just kind of like risk management at the end of the day, guys. Like, and as people call me an ETH maxi, and people say, oh, he's just all in on ETH. That's all he cares about. That's why, you know, his net worth is all tied up in ETH. That's why he's an ETH maxi. It's like, that's not the case at all. Like, at all. The reason I'm in Ethereum is the tech. The reason I love Ethereum is because I believe it is the best shot we have at creating a truly decentralized world. And, you know, you guys know that. You guys know that that's what I'm all about. So I think I just wanted to clarify that for all of you, because you know what? I know that people who know me well, which I would consider you guys that listen to me every day and watch on YouTube every day, would know me quite well at this point. But I think that people on Twitter were just kind of like shocked by it. Like, oh my God, he's this guy promoting ETH all the time and it's only 15% of his net worth. It's like, yeah, guys, because, you know, of all the reasons I just outlined. And also, as I said, it's good risk management not to be kind of like over positioned on something. And, you know, then in my last tweet here, I said that I had too many people contact me about this and DM me about this, and then I explained how it was ETH is 70% of my liquid crypto net worth. Now, the key word here is liquid crypto net worth, because as I said, I have made a bunch of angel investments over the kind of, I guess, like the last couple of years, and most of them are not liquid. Most of them aren't trading. I have no idea if they're ever going to trade or not as a token or on the stock market. Nothing, right? At least for most of them, I don't really know. So I don't include those in kind of like my crypto net worth. I only include what's liquid, what I can basically see in my zapper, so to speak. And when I looked at everything I had, I was like, okay, well, like I'm 70% ETH. And the reason why I don't talk about what other assets kind of like I own and the percentage on those assets is because I don't want to give a signal to people that they should own this thing or they should buy this thing. Like, you guys know I hate kind of like people who do that, because I just think that it's not really responsible to do that. I think people can find things on their own. They can read between the lines. They can kind of like discover their own investments and things like that. And the reason why I'm comfortable always being bullish on ETH and talking about ETH is because of the fact that I'm never selling it. Like, that's like number one reason for me is like, I'm not promoting ETH just so I can get like everyone to buy into it and I can dump on them. Like, no, that's not what I'm doing at all, right? And same with kind of like any of the other projects I'm invested in. I'm not doing that. I'm just like talking about projects that I like, giving updates to you guys that you may be interested in, and then going from there. So that's a bit of clarity around that. Sorry if I was stumbling a little bit there. As I said, I'm still sick, so my brain's a little bit mushed right now. But yeah, I just wanted to clarify that for all of you. And look, I'm not in the business of giving investment advice. Like, I'm not an investment advisor or anything like that. But every single person that you talk to that has had experience with investing, especially like maybe 5-10 years experience, especially investment advisors, at some point when they're talking to you, they're going to mention risk management, and it's going to be part of pretty much like the entire portfolio construction if you are getting investment advice from a professional. Like, that is just a cookie cutter thing. It's like bread and butter of investing is managing your risk, making sure that you don't blow yourself up, as I've mentioned plenty of times, and that's all part of managing it. And I've talked about leverage and things like that before as well, and that's what I try my best to do. I've had people in my life have very, very bad experiences taking risks, very, very bad experiences with things like debt, and that's why I stay clear of leverage. I learned from those experiences, and I'm adamant not to repeat the same mistakes that people around me have repeated, and also my own mistakes from the earlier days as well. And I try to impart as much as that as I can onto all of you. But as I said before, you have to learn some of this stuff for yourself. You have to go through it yourself. You have to basically be positioned how you're comfortable to be positioned. Like, I'm comfortable with ETH only being 15% of my overall net worth. But at the same time, I would like to increase that because I am really, really bullish on ETH. So you guys know, like, I'm buying lots of ETH down here. Profits that I get from other things, I roll into ETH as well. But I figured that, like, I needed to secure myself in my own kind of like in my own life with like a house and you know, things for that house, right? Like furniture and things like that, right? And you know, not throw everything just like into ETH. Eventually, you got to kind of like take profits and kind of like spend them on things. I just think that there's this weird kind of like thing that maybe comes from the old Bitcoin days, or I guess like, you know, way back in maybe 2012, 2013 around hodl. It's like, always hodl, no, don't sell ever. Like, just because I'm not selling my ETH, guys, doesn't mean I'm trying to tell you not to sell your ETH. Like, it's up to you what you want to do. You don't have to sell all of it. If you want to take profits, you can sell half of it and keep half of it. It's up to you what you want to do. But like, the hodl thing is literally just a meme. Like, you shouldn't always hodl everything forever. Like, you know, you have an investment that you make, choose your time horizon, choose when you want to kind of like take profits on it, and then stick to the plan. Like, don't just kind of chop and change things and say things like, oh, you know, I'm just going to go all in on this, like, screw it, like I'm going to make all my money from this, I'm going to sell here, it's going to be awesome. Because you're not investing at that point. I would consider that gambling. And I think the number one mistake people make is price targets. They always say, oh, I'm going to buy this asset and then I'm going to sell it once it reaches this price. That's in my experience the worst way to do it, because like 9 times out of 10 it's not going to reach that price and you're not going to sell, and then it's just going to dump and you're not going to make much money, or you might lose money as well. So the way I did it personally was that I didn't have a price target for each of my investments. I had a target for, okay, well, you know, is this kind of like money enough from my initial investment? Am I happy with the profits here? Yes. Okay, take it. But I also took in a bunch of other signals. One of the biggest signals for me was like, do I feel like this is overheated? Do I feel like this trade or this investment has run its course for now? Am I still bullish on the project? You know, sometimes I was, sometimes I wasn't. And I just took profits from there. There's nothing wrong with doing that. But when it comes to ETH, like, I just can't bring myself to do it. Like, some people said, oh, you could have sold at 4K and then bought like so much back now. It's like, but like, that's a trader. Like, I don't trust myself enough to do that. Like, honestly, if I sold at 4K, I probably would have bought back at 2K. Like, and the thing is, after accounting for tax and everything like that, you know, it probably wouldn't have been worth it for the amount of risk that I had taken on then. So I think when people say that, I'm just like, it's just much easier for me to stack my ETH as I can, whenever I can, throw it into staking and stick to my strategy that I've had for a while. But anyway, I'm going to leave it at that. I spoke about that a bit longer than I intended to there, but I just wanted to provide color for all of you, because I know a bunch of you we're talking about this in the Discord channel over the weekend and a bit today as well. It's something that I think a lot of people can get a lot of value out of, just talking through this stuff, learning from other people. But I always stick to my kind of like rule that you need to learn for yourself. You need to just go and do it yourself and kind of like learn from your own experiences, your own mistakes. Because I can tell you like what my experiences are. I can tell you kind of like what I learned from a million times. But at the end of the day, you can just freely ignore that. You don't have to listen to me. And the thing is, like, you may think I'm wrong too. Like, maybe I am wrong. I don't know. Like, I'm just giving you my kind of like view on all of this. So anyway, going to leave it at that for now. Got a bunch of other updates to get through. So the Sepolia public testnet, the second public testnet that will be running through the merge transition, will be happening on July 6th. Now, I mentioned this before, but I'm going to be hosting a live stream with ETHstaker for this. It's going to be similar to the Ropsten live stream. We're going to have a bunch of people on the Zoom call. It's going to be going on YouTube, and we're just going to all watch it happen live and celebrate and just, you know, have a fun time. I don't know if Song a Day Man's going to be on there, if he's going to be singing us in or ringing us in. He probably will be if we kind of like have another one there. So that there'll be some of that, and there'll be a bunch of entertainment. Maybe Vitalik will join and have like a really bad mic again and give us all kind of like hurt all our ears and things like that. But I don't know. I'll have more details on that soon, around kind of like where it'll be hosted on YouTube, all that sort of stuff. I think it's going to be hosted on either my channel or ETHstaker's channel. Just depends on what happens there. But yeah, July 6th is that kind of like a transition. And don't forget, June 29th, a couple days from now, the execution layer, Ethereum execution layer, is going to be going through on a hard fork to delay the difficulty bomb by 2 to 3 2 to 3 months here. So if you haven't upgraded your ETH1 execution layer nodes, be sure to do so. I spun up a couple of new Nethermind nodes over the weekend. Very simple to do. They're humming along really nicely there. Very happy with that. So, and Nethermind is a minority client. So definitely if you're running Geth right now, it might be worth running a minority client or switching over instead of just kind of like upgrading Geth, because obviously we want better client diversity there. But regardless of what you do, make sure you upgrade, because if you don't, you'll be kicked off and you'll be on a stale network. All right, so there was another AllCoreDevs call on Friday, and that's where the Sepolia kind of like announcement came out of. But Tim Byko had a really quick TLDR on the Shadow Fork number 7, so mainnet Shadow Fork 7 that I spoke about. It ran mostly okay. There was really just some non-merge related issues in clients that showed up, such as Shadow Fork related peering issues for Aragon and a database related issue for Besu, both minority clients again. Shadow Fork 8 will happen in 2 weeks from June 25th with configs to avoid hitting these. So that means that I believe this next mainnet Shadow Fork will happen after Sepolia. So we'll have Sepolia, then mainnet Shadow Fork 8, and then maybe another one before Girly, and then hopefully mainnet from there. So yeah, people were asking kind of like about this and basically how the Shadow Fork 7 went. I mean, it was basically uneventful except for these sorts of things. And uneventful is good at this stage. We don't want glaring issues, especially merge-related issues, to be showing up at this point in time. And it doesn't seem like they are. It seems like the clients are pretty much there. There are small issues with minority clients that'll get ironed out. Like I don't think that they're kind of like showstoppers or anything like that. And I think we're at the point now where I'm pretty confident in saying that September is looking really, really good for a merge, pending these kind of like 2 final public test nets. But you know, I'm pretty happy. I'm pretty confident in September at this stage. But as I said, like pending the kind of results of the public test nets, pending how the core developers kind of feel. I know there's still some hesitancy because of these kind of like these issues in these minority clients, but I mean, I get that, and I get we want these minority clients to kind of like be up to scratch because we want people to kind of choose them over Geth for client diversity and things like that. But I think that even if they're not totally up to scratch, it might just be worth running through the merge transition and then post-merge worrying about getting these non-merge related issues ironed out, because I think that just generally we need to get the merge out of the way so we can work on the other things. Like you know what, guys? Like I'm not even wanting to get the merge out of the way just so we can get it kind of like done. I mean, just for all the reasons why I've outlined before about how it's bullish for ETH and Ethereum and all that sort of stuff. I just want to get it out of the way so that we can focus on the even cooler upgrades coming, like proto-dank sharding and a bunch of other things as well, and beacon chain withdrawals too. So just got to get it done. As I said, I'm pretty confident in September, as I have been. I think mid-September is more likely than early September. It could happen as in late September too, but September is looking likely at this point in time. That's my own estimation. Please do not quote me on that and don't say it's an official thing. It's just my own estimation. We'll have to see how Sepolia goes, how the mainnet Shadow Forks go, and how Girly goes, of course, here. All right, so speaking of upgrades coming after the merge, Vitalik has kind of, I guess, put together a blog post called The Road to Account Abstraction. So this is account abstraction has been kind of like an upgrade that has been a long time coming. It's been, I guess, like chopped and changed a bit, kind of put on the back burner. People wanted it before EIP 1559, but then it got put in the back burner for that, and then it kind of like fell on the wayside, and now it's been turned into an ERC instead of an EIP. Now, for those of you who don't know the difference, an EIP is basically an Ethereum improvement proposal, which is something that requires a hard fork to go into the network and kind of like become part of the core protocol. Whereas an ERC is a spec, basically, or a kind of like, I should say a standard, basically. So ERC stands for Ethereum Request for Comments, as far as I am aware. I think that's what it stands for. And basically, anyone can create an ERC, and like as long as people adopt that standard, it becomes a standard, basically. So, for example, ERC20 is the token standard on Ethereum that everyone uses, but you could just as easily create another token standard, which people have, like the NFT token standards have different numbers, they're different ERCs, but you can create another token standard called ERC whatever, right? And as long as people adopted it, it would become a standard there. So that's what this is attempting to do here. ERC 4337 is attempting to do the same thing as EIP 2938, with kind of like account abstraction here. So you can kind of like read this kind of post from Vitalik here describing kind of like the road to account abstraction through this ERC instead of an EIP, and kind of like how we can kind of like get there with a roadmap here. So short term, medium term, long term, and alternatives as well. So definitely go check this out if you haven't already. It's a pretty interesting upgrade that could be coming to Ethereum very, very soon. All right, so Tatum's here from the ENS team has shared a, fresh look at the new ENS Web App here. So basically, you can see that they're redesigning the whole thing here with different new layouts on both mobile and kind of like desktop and things like that as well. Load times have been collapsed as well, which is really, really cool to see. So some major upgrades coming for ENS here on the interface front, and this is V3 of the ENS app, and it's basically entered alpha as of this post, which is cool. Obviously, after that will come beta, and then public kind of release there. So I think this is cool because obviously ENS plays a lot into the decentralized identity space and having your own kind of like Web3 identity and things like that. And we want to make that as easy as possible for people to play around with and interact with, and especially for people who coming into this ecosystem through things like NFTs. I've actually noticed a pretty big overlap between people who own, well, technically an ENS name is an NFT, but just for the sake of argument, technically they own like an NFT, such as like a collectible or a gaming item or something like that, or like, the profile picture NFTs, things like that. And they'll also have like an ENS name because that's part of their identity. Like you can't just have the profile picture NFT, you need the ENS name to go with that. You need the on-chain verifiable proof or identity of who you are. So it's very, very popular with those kinds of people. And I think those kinds of people are less interested in going or jumping through a lot of the UX hoops that we've put there for people with, over the years. And they just want something really, really simple to use. And I think that's what ENS App V3 is trying to do here. Just make it really easy, really kind of like Web 2 feel, I think, in terms of design, which I think, the one good thing about Web 2 is that they've got the UI and UX like down pat. Like, I mean, because there wasn't really much innovation happening kind of like on the product side, it's mostly innovation that has happened on the UI UX side of things. And even then it's kind of like become a bit boring, but Web 2 has this really good thing where it's like 1 to 2 clicks to do anything on any of the really popular apps out there. And that's what we need to get crypto to. We can't just have people doing like 10 different clicks to do anything in crypto. It's just going to turn most people off, and most people just don't want to have to do that. They don't want to have to learn all these new things to just do something simple. So if you could register an ENS name in a couple of clicks, I think that would be the best way to do it, and do it, really easily, so you don't have to mess around with kind of like name records, reverse records, all that sorts of stuff, because I think most people don't want to have to do that, especially ones who are just coming into the ecosystem to have a good time, to be entertained through NFTs. Maybe they don't even care about DeFi. We need to make things easier for them, and I think that's what ENS is doing here. So really cool to see this. Looking forward to seeing this progress. All right, so Bartek has a really great thread that I think all of you should read because this is very relevant to questions that I keep getting asked. And Bartek starts this thread by saying, by now you must have heard that rollups derive their security from Ethereum, even rollups that have a centralized sequencer. So why would you want to decentralize the sequences? Surely it adds complexity and can slow down the L2 block production. And you can read the thread for his kind of description about this. But the reason why I say I get a lot of questions about this is because I think when people hear me say that layer 2s inherit security from Ethereum layer 1, they think for some reason that layer 2 can't be hacked, right? Or can't be exploited. And that's like, couldn't be further from the truth. As I've explained before, a layer 2 is like a set of smart contracts on Ethereum. It's the same thing as a smart contract that is maybe a DeFi on layer 1. So for example, a DeFi smart contract on layer 1 or any smart contract on layer 1 Ethereum is technically secured by Ethereum because the blockchain is secured, that those smart contracts are on is secured by the miners and the future validators. But that doesn't mean that it's secured against an exploit. Like if there's bad code in the smart contract, or if there's code that allows for the exploit to happen, then it's going to happen. Same is true for layer 2s. If they have bugs in their code, if they have bad code, if there's an exploit there, it's going to get exploited. And it doesn't matter if it's secured by Ethereum or not. That's not kind of like what kind of like protecting your funds there, right? But what benefit you get of being secured by Ethereum is that you get that ultra security and decentralization that Ethereum's kind of like network gives you, right? That it gives you at layer 1, it gives you the same thing at layer 2 without the high cost. But it can still be exploited all the same because of the fact that these things are still smart contracts. Like when you bridge into a layer 2, you're locking your funds on Ethereum layer 1. You're being issued the kind of like an IOU on layer 2, say it's an Optimism or an Arbitrum. But then the advantage of layer 2, because it's kind of secured by Ethereum layer 1, is that you can have escape hatches, or you can have things where even if the layer 2 went completely offline, you could use this escape hatch to get your funds back. And you wouldn't need to rely on any kind of like centralized operator to give your funds back. And that is the key benefit. Whereas something like another chain, like if you were to bridge to the Avalanche C chain, for example, well, if that chain goes offline, or if an exploit happens there, or whatever happens, right, your funds are lost on Ethereum layer 1, because you technically don't own them there, because the ownership belongs to the Avalanche C chain, which has either been kind of like exploited or something's happened there. So you didn't have Ethereum's security, you had the Avalanche C chain security, for example. So I've gone through this before, but I felt like it was worth clarifying, because I think people get the wrong idea. And you should read this thread from Bartek. It goes into even kind of like more depth, especially around sequences. So definitely give that a read. I'll link it in the YouTube description. All right, so if you want to learn more about the Protocol Guild, you can go catch this video that Trent Van Epps, one of the people running the Protocol Guild here, presented at Protocol Labs, where it was called Funding the Commons, at the Protocol Labs Funding the Commons event. And Trent talks about Ethereum and its public goods, existing funding mechanisms and their limitations, Protocol Guild's design, response to those limitations, and the one-year pilot. I've talked about Protocol Guild a bunch of times before, so I'm not going to rehash it here. You can definitely give this video a watch. I think it's about half an hour. Trent goes through things very, very cleanly. I enjoyed it. I think he described it quite well and kind of described his vision for it quite well as well. So you should definitely check this out. I'll link it in the YouTube description. All right, so Coinbase announced that they are supporting Polygon kind of like mainnet here, and I kind of like went over this last week when they announced that, but cool to see Polygon kind of like sharing this here, where they said you can send and receive to Polygon POS chain directly on Coinbase. It's, you know, the seamless user experience for using dApps on Polygon, and Polygon POS becomes the first network to go live on Coinbase.com. And I think they meant like first kind of like Ethereum scalability network here. And as I said last week, you know, Optimism, Arbitrum, a bunch of other layer 2s are coming. I expect that to happen soon. But I wanted to kind of like focus on what Polygon said here around seamless user experience for using dApps. Like, this is a UX barrier, the bridging part of things. Like when a user wants to get onto Optimism or Arbitrum or any other layer 2, for example, I always bring up Optimism and Arbitrum because I think they're the most kind of like progressed layer 2 ecosystems right now. But when people want to get onto these places, even the Polygon POS chain, they usually have to go through Ethereum, right? Ethereum layer 1. And that's usually costly, it's usually cumbersome, it's usually slow and clunky, because Ethereum layer 1 just is that way, right? It's not supposed to be the user layer. And because of that, it kind of turns people off. It's a bad user experience, it's not great. But if users can go directly from a centralized exchange to these networks and bypass Ethereum layer 1 altogether, then that is like the best user experience in terms of kind of like bridging, I think. Now, there are obviously other bridges people can use, like Hop and Connects and things like that. But you know, in terms of like the most normie friendly stuff, it's definitely bridging from a centralized exchange into these kind of like networks, and people can do what they want from there. And we obviously want not just a withdrawal, but a deposit bridge as well, so people can kind of do that whole loop there. So again, very cool to see this, and I'm hoping Coinbase supports the other networks sooner rather than later. All right, finally here we have Bash, I think that's how you say their name, from Rainbow, saying first Rainbow swap on L2 for me. Optimistic L2 transaction hash details. So this is just a link to a transaction that happened on the Rainbow app on L2, where the kind of like a bunch of kind of swaps done here. But very cool to see that Optimism should be supported on kind of like Rainbow soon enough. And for those of you who don't know, Rainbow is a mobile wallet app, one of the kind of like best mobile wallet apps out there. Very, very seamless UX, as I was just saying. These UX barriers need to come down for the everyday user to want to actually use these sorts of things. And this is just another one of them. Just seamless swapping in a kind of like an app on layer 2, or in a mobile app on layer 2 is, you know, pretty much like that 1 to 2 click that I was talking about, where users can basically, I guess with Rainbow, say like the user flow is deposit funds, whether that's from a centralized exchange, you know, or basically deposit kind of like fiat or use a fiat payment processor to buy crypto, and then immediately be able to swap that for whatever token they want on Optimism using kind of like Rainbow swap feature. So that most is only a few clicks there. Really seamless user experience, and that's exactly what we want to get to. So just wanted to kind of like highlight that there today. But I think that's going to be it for now. So thank you everyone for listening and watching. Be sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. Give the video a thumbs up, subscribe to the newsletter, join the Discord channel, and I'll catch you all tomorrow. Thanks everyone.